Hi there, it's Carl Irwin, the Common Magician, and I've got a few minutes to share something with you, and I haven't posted in a while. I did one quick recent video on some shuffles, false shuffle sequences, my favorite go-to ones that are very secure, and they look very deceptive at the same time. And this is going to be a very different topic that has nothing to do with playing cards at all. And this comes off of a recent post, not I think this past week, but just within the last few posts from David at Magic Orthodoxy. He put up a video that he said his top five everyday carry book tests, which is an interesting term to think about, an everyday carry book test. And the way it was presented on the list that he gave, and I don't do book tests very much. I do one book test, and this isn't going to be it. I've actually shared that before. Something floating in the air there. I shared something before on the channel and under the Tricks That I Do segment that I did, where I shared Mark Paul's AAA book test, the Anytime, Anywhere, Any Book test. And that is the one book test that I do, and I do it in impromptu settings. That's what it's made for. So you're at a bookstore, and I've done this, right? You're at a bookstore randomly with people, family, friends, whatever, maybe even a stranger or someone, an acquaintance or something, someone you've met. And you say, go grab any book on the shelf. And I think actually in one of the demos for the trick, Mark Paul does this with a spectator. And you just, open up the book and they think of a word on the page and you tell them what it is. And literally any book, anytime, anywhere. And what's so good about the book test is that the method is extremely simple. It's very direct. And the performance really, the effect really is all about performance. It's all about long playing the revelation. Now, some people, I think, shy away from it. And I made this comment on David's list there, because all of his tests had to do with books that are sold. These were kind of self-contained type book tests. Most of them were. Some of them were slightly, they were nuanced variations of the concept. But you would buy a book and you would have that book and you would use that book for the book test. And when he says everyday carry, meaning, well, it's one book that you can carry around and you can do the test with. That's, there's a lot of those on the market. So he was kind of giving his top five there. My comment was, I think the most portable book test has to be something like Mark Paul's, because there's no book. And it's extremely powerful because it can be done with any book. You can do the thing in a situation where you're like, hey, I see you have a book there. Let me see that real quick. Right? That can be your setup. Literally any book at any time, anywhere, with any spectator. So that is the one that I use. Now, I can't really talk about that. And if you know anything about magic, if you know anything about intermediate, I would say, to advanced magic techniques, if you watch the performance of it in the demonstration, or you can actually see Mark Paul do this effect, it's strong enough that he did it on live television, national television, back in the 90s on his famous time on the Parkinson show. I think it was Christmas or New Year's or something, where he was on there. He did a set of tricks, and it ended in an any card at any number, which was the Burglas effect. It was that type. Someone names a number, someone names a card, the deck is out of his hands and it's dealt down and the card is at that number, and that is literally how the trick goes. And that's what that set is best known for, was that effect captured on television. And I don't want to get into that, but in that set, he does the AAA book test on live TV. It's strong enough that he did that in that situation. And if you know something about mentalism and magic and book tests and certain kinds of card magic, you would know what he's doing. But the tactic and the technique is that much of the trick. really, when you see him do that there, and if you've heard him explain this in his Penguin Live lecture, one of them years ago, or if you've purchased the effect, you understand that the trick is really the revelation. It is the way in which you get about getting the word out. And that is where people are amazed, because that's the real effect. That's the real trick. So that's the one I use. Can't talk about it because it isn't mine. But I will talk about other approaches for an anytime, anywhere kind of book test. Some strategies for that that you can use and maybe you can experiment with. Now, these are not exactly time tested by me, but these are long-standing methods, and you can certainly work with them and make them better or use them for your own use. So assuming it could be any book, anytime, anywhere, I just have one book right here. And I have to say this. I grabbed this off of my daughter's library shelf. This is C.S. Lewis, The Chronicles of Narnia. It is The Magician's Nephew. And I grabbed that one on purpose because it's The Magician's Nephew. But this is something I thought about as soon as I saw that book, and I knew I would use it for this. The one beef I have, and some people credit the effects for doing this because of what you can bring out of it in the interaction with the spectator. So many of those effects use these very cheeky titles, right? They'll use titles that are mystical, magical, and I don't know. My problem with that is it really makes the book proppy, I think, whenever they do that. Okay, so using a book like The Magician's Nephew, carrying this around with you and saying, let me show you something with my book called The Magician's Nephew, or whatever, or Paranorma, or whatever kind of title you're going to put on the book. Doing that just seems really goofy to me. If you're going to do one of those book tests, I would say go for one of the books that has a publication title that is well known and kind of classical, something that is, or known well enough as a legitimate publication. That's just my feeling on it. Now, some would argue on the other side, to play the devil's advocate, some people would argue on the other side of that it brings a little bit out in the presentation when you can make a tongue-in-cheek joke about the title. So there's that. But anyway, I have The Magician's Nephew. So this might go something like this, where you say to the spectator, go ahead and open up the book. This is a children's book, after all, if you've ever read the C.S. Lewis series, Chronicles of Narnia. If you look at the book, I want you to open it up to any page you want. It doesn't have to be in the middle, could be near the beginning, could be near the end, as long as both pages have some text on it that we can use. We need to make sure that there's text on both pages. And we can use either this side over here if you want to, or we could use this side over here. It doesn't really matter. Which one do you want? Which would you like to use? Your left or your right? Your right? This one over here? Okay, I want you to take a look at the first word. Now, you might look at the first word, and it might be really small. If it's a really tiny word, you can think of the first few words or something like that. And I want you to be thinking about them. I'm not going to look at it at all. The book's been sitting this way. I haven't looked at it. This could be a book off of a shelf. There's no way that I could know what's on it. I want you to think, I'm getting a T in there is part of the word that you might be thinking of. Now, I think it might, in the first, if we're thinking, I'm getting some really short words. It might be part of several words, right? I'm getting like at, but that's too easy as a short word, right? But I'm seeing something in my mind. I'm seeing like a clock. I see kind of two lines going around in a circle, like the face of a clock, and I see some numbers or Roman numerals. So I'm going to say at a time, or at some time, something like that. Is that what it is? What were you thinking of? All this time, right? That's what you're thinking of. So if you look at the words, you can see the words are all this time. So this is a method that if you're going to use any book anywhere at any time, there's really only one way to go about that. There's really two ways to go about it. There's one way that can branch in many different directions. At the very root of this is a peek. You have to peek it. You have to see what's there, right? I suppose you could do any book anytime and do some kind of a force, but even that would require you to peek. If you had a procedure to force a page in a word using a numerical value or something in a procedure to get there, you would have to get to that page preemptively to get information in order to do it. So either way you look at it, we're dealing with peeking, either covert peeking or peeking using a preliminary view of the book and then some other kind of force to get there. Forget about the force aspect of it, and let's deal with peeking in the moment. Now, there are ways to peek. I'll say that Mark Paul's works on a peek. I'm not going to talk about his peek in particular, but it's so good, it's the only one I would do really for people. But as a secondary kind of concept, there are ways to peek things without looking directly at them. And one of the big ways to do that is to use a mirror, right? So I have a small circular mirror. You can actually buy mirrored coins. So it's a coin on one side and a mirror on the other. This is not that. This is just a small plastic mirror. Comes from a children's toy, a very flimsy kind of dollar children's toy. And you can find this if you go to like a Dollar Tree or dollar store where they have cheap children's toys. You might find something that has a mirror on it. Buy it and pop the mirror out. This came from like a compass. It was like a toy compass and binocular kind of set that my kid had, and it broke, and this comes out of that. So it's a very, very good clean mirror. And you can palm this as you would a coin. I just kept this in thumb palm. And it's very simple. At the beginning, I say we can go with this page, and right now I can read the first couple of words from the page. Need any reward? Need my reward from here, and then over here I say, or we can go with this page, and I just take a quick glance down. Now you got to be able to read in mirror form, so you have to read in reverse and mirror form. Know that you're looking at that. I can see all this time. Now the second part of this, I think, whenever you're getting a peek like that, is to do a bit of miscall in your revelation. Reveal something that is very similar but not exact, right? So I say T, there's a T in one of the major words. They might say no and say, well, maybe it's not in the first word, but maybe in one of the first words, it's maybe the more important word. And you can say maybe it's in more word. Maybe it's like a small word like at, and they might shake their head and say, well, I'm getting at, and I see something like, now the word's time I'm going for, I see a clock. You got to be able to think on your feet and have some personality and kind of use a roundabout way to get to the end. And I settled on at any time, and it is all the time, or I forgot what it was. It was at whatever. Whatever it is, you say something close, but you focus in on the main word and try to reveal it, okay? That is a tactic that increases the effect. And that's how you make a cheap peek something much more. Don't just call out what it is as if you peeked it and you told them what it was. Get it sort of right. Get it sort of right. Because there's no way that you should be able to, of all the words in the language, in any language that could be in a book, there's no way you should get close to whatever it is they have decided on. So a peek using a mirror. And there's a lot of different ways to handle a mirror to get a peek. That's just mine. You could do, if you want to make it a little more complex, but this may be running when you're not being chased, is preliminarily say, pick a small number. They might say something like 1 through 5, and if they do, you're all set. If they say something like 11 or 12, say, no, something really tiny and easy, simple to deal with for us, like between 1 and 5. I say between 1 and 5 because that kind of language actually narrows them to 2, 3, or 4, so you get really low. And they might say 3, and you say, great, no, we'll just keep that in mind. Go ahead and open up the book. Make sure you open up to a couple of pages that have text on them. And let's say they said 3, right? And at this point, I would say now you can see we have text on this page. Yes, we can either use this page or we could use this page over here. It really doesn't matter which one you want to. And they say, let's use this page. You say, great. On the you said before, you said 3, right? 3 was your word. Now I've already glimpsed the third line. And I say, go ahead and look at the first word on that third line there, whatever it is. I want you to think about it, and then you go through the whole thing. I'm getting some kind of familial word, something the very nurturing kind of word. I keep getting some kind of grandmother, but it's not grandmother. It's not grandmother. It's like motherly, mom, something like that. And you can see that the word there is mother on line 3. So again, roundabout way to get to it, get kind of close, call it out. But you could have, a preliminary number selected that gives you additional information. So when you do your peek, you know exactly where you're peeking as you look at it. You point down and I can see line number 3 and I grab the word. And then I point over here. So you could use this one over here and I can see had happened is the first couple of words over there. And it's a very quick glimpse and I'm ready to go. Whatever side they pick is whatever I do my revelation on. So a mirror. Other options though, in the moment, anytime, anywhere kinds of options. You can incorporate other kinds of mentalist ruses that allow you to get information via peek. One way that you might do this is using very traditional kinds of methods. So I'll take out, I've got some cards here that we can use for this. And I've got a marker, right? So you can carry this in your wallet. You can carry a marker. And you can use any variation of this principle that you want. But they might pick a word, any word on any page, right? And what you do is you get the word out onto the into the open, right? And then you get your peek from that. So this is a very well-known mentalist technique, particularly used with thought of concepts. You're thinking of a person you've met, a person that you know, someone you know really, really well. I want you to think of just their first name, and I want you to write it right here. Now, right away, you might be thinking, center tear, and that might be something that you do. You just do a center tear. You have them put it down there, you tear it up, you get your peek from the fragment that you retain from the center tear. But another one might be this. So we'll take a word out of here, and of course, this is just for explanation because I know the word I'm picking. Just write that nice and clear so that we can verify it, and they'll write down their word, and then you what you say is, I'm going to put this into my wallet just for safekeeping so that we can come back to it, just so we can verify later on. Keeps everybody honest. So I'm just going to slide it into my wallet. I'm not even going to put it in here. I'm going to put it in here where it just cannot be seen. Okay, and I want you to now think about that word. And I want you to think about all of the words that might be related to that word. So anything related to the concept of that word. And I want you to kind of meditate on that for a moment. So what I'm seeing in my mind is some sort of a conflict, like a battle, almost like a war. But this isn't really it's not really all of the blood and guts of the war. It's not the conflict itself. It's what happens after. It's about what's left. It's about the one left standing, the one that wins. It's about winning. But I'm getting it's not win. It's, I'm getting like a V for like victorious or something like that. Does that make sense to you? Does it? And then you can take out the billet. You can show victory, right? So here, in this case, it's a peek. It's a peek from my wallet. I slide it in there, and I have a window on the inside, and I have justification. I take my remaining billets, and when I slide them into my wallet like this, I quickly glance a peek through my window and I close it up. There's a lot of wallets that can give you a peek. So you can just use apparatus you already have carrying around for you and use it for any book test, anywhere, anytime. Any way that you can get a peek, any kind of mentalist method in order to extrapolate the information, get it into the open, get it onto a medium that you can then get it from. Could be an impression, a pad, or something like that, anything like that. Another strategy that you can use is something like this. And we've talked about this before as well. But I've got what I want to do is I'm going to write down something. And I don't know if this will make any sense, but I am thinking of something. And I'm just going to quickly note it down here. I don't know if this is going to make any sense to you whatsoever. I don't know. Okay. It hardly makes any sense to me. But what I want you to do is I want you to open up the book. And I want you to just find a page. Somewhere on the page, I want you to find a word that's significant, something that stands out to you, right? And we'll say on this page, we go with the word angry. The word angry is the word, and that's the one they're thinking about. And you say, I want you to meditate on that. I want you to concentrate on that, right? And I want you to really kind of imprint it in your head. I think we're on the same page, right? What was the word that you were thinking about? And they say angry, right? And I wrote, and then I can show them what I wrote down. And I show them, I have this image of like a boxing glove, like a fight, right? And you show them something really obscure. Now, you could be dead on with this if you want. You could be, but I think there's a lot of power in being obscure, off to the side, tangential, something that touches but isn't exactly on the mark, right? And say maybe that's not good enough for you, but that's just it's just a skill that I have, is to I can seem to be able to get very close to something. I was thinking of a fight, of something, some kind of a, there's some kind of a retribution, some kind of a duking it out. Anyway, that's it. Now, what is going on here? This is about revelation after the revelation. They say what the word is, and then I use a thumb writer. Some people swear by nail writers. I have a thumb writer as far as I've gotten into this sort of a thing. I do carry around a thumb writer occasionally, and I often will use the thumb tip for other things too. Sometimes I'll use it for coin effects where I can make a knocking noise. I've covered some of this stuff before, but I have multiple purposes for my thumb writer. But a lot of people who do a lot of this kind of work swear by nail writers. So that would be something that actually fits underneath the nail. And they have specific makers that they like to go with, people that they have custom make their nail writers. You could do this or you could be direct. Now, I would prefer to be like this. And I get this from Banachek. Banachek talks about using pocket writing in particular, and being very, very obscure about the revelation and how that can be very, very impactful. So this is another way to do a book test anytime, anywhere. It's a simple mentalist reveal. It could be off of a thought of name, but we're just incorporating the book, and now it becomes a book test. Right? So it's another method related to another avenue of mentalism, just applied to a random book or a book off of a shelf or a book that is chosen from many, whatever the case may be. So you can be direct, you can be obscure, you could do it with a page number. Say, open it up, take a look at the number, and I want you to think of that number, keep it in your mind, and close it up. You've picked a page number, and then you can reveal it in that way if your thumb writing is good. Another reason for going for the obscure with thumb writing is that if you're obscure, you don't have to be clean. If you're drawing a really messy picture, right, that's one thing. Another possibility is, let's say they say something like, they name something like a tiger, right? You could go for something that's a lot easier to write, but something that's related. You could write, cat, or you could write lion or something, something that you can do in block lettering that's just a few letters, anything that is simple and related. And you can be as obscure as you want or as direct as you want, but it's a really, really good way to deal with pocket or thumb writing. Just being simple with your revelation and indirect, not exact with it. So there's a bunch of ideas for you related to anytime, anywhere kind of book test methodology. Just incorporating various kinds of mentalist concepts and of course gambling concepts using that shiner, a mirrored coin, or just a mirror. This has application in many different ways. Just having a small mirror like that, keeping that in your pocket, will allow you to do a whole bunch of card material. Because with a deck of cards, of course, there's a million things you can do with a mirror. Right? You can have them point to a card. Right? You can say this one right here. You can move it to the front, and then you can easily get a glimpse off of the corner. Right? And as you set it down or whatever, there's all kinds of ways that you can apply a mirror to peeking information from the other side. You just should practice a little bit with reading in reverse from your shiner so that you can apply it in the case that you need it. So anyway, that's what I got for you. A whole bunch of ideas. Not everything that I use. A couple things I use for other areas, not necessarily for a book test, but just some concepts for you to chew on and consider when conceiving of a very portable book test. Anytime, anywhere, any book. So good luck with that. Happy magicking.